everybody, it's Jimmy King with WrestleLaunch, and I have your Friday TNA Thursday Night Impact review. If you have not seen the show, spoilers. So I'm going to premise this. You guys might see a discrepancy in how much I know about the product versus AEW, because when it comes to TNA, I gave up on them at one point in time when they became Impact Wrestling, and I have only just recently decided to get back into them since they joined AMC. So I have no idea for the most part what's going on. So I'm going along this journey, and you guys are coming along with me. So, that being said, we have a contract signing that will start off the last show that they are having in their New Orleans taping. We have a pay-per-view this weekend, or a premium live event. I don't know what they call them, but it's going to be Rebellion this Saturday. And we are going to see Mike Santana, the TNA World Champion, go up against Eddie Edwards, who won that opportunity in a Feast or Fired briefcase match. We're going back and forth. They talked about how one stayed and one left, and the other one was here, and the other one was there, and the other one wanted greener pastures and realized greener pastures weren't actually green. Personally, these type of promos, they almost always are the same thing. You got the one guy who's saying, I've been here the longest time, and you got the other guy who's saying, I was here, but I left, and I came back, and I'm happy to blah, 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 blah. I'm pretty okay with it. I like Santana. I'm a huge fan of Santana. I personally liked Proud and Powerful, so I've even got in my own little wrestling thing that I have Loud and Powerful as an ode to them. But when it comes down to Mike Santana, he is the type of wrestler who does need that type of step where, you know, he gets to a certain plateau and he feels that he needs to get beyond that plateau, so he does do that. They do go and they chirp at each other quite a bit, and we end up seeing Cedric Alexander come out after they kind of get a little chippy. We then see Leon Slater come out to even the odds some, and they go to commercial with them chirping at one another. When we come back from commercial, we see AJ Francis talking about how he took a piece out of Nick Nemeth and what his plans are for that, talking about his time in the NFL and how he was offered a chance to play for the Browns and how he didn't want to be in Cleveland, which, by the way, is where Rebellion will be airing from, is in the Cleveland area. From AJ Francis, we move on to Tasha Steelz on commentary desk as we see Dani Luna going into the ring against Jada Stone. Now, that's the thing where I was talking about when it comes to their recording schedule. I am very well aware that back at the end of March, Dani Luna asked for her release from TNA and was granted it. So I am assuming that this recording, or at least this match that was recorded, or this match that happened before that happened, or she was granted her release and she agreed to do a match in the interim to get out. At the end of the day, though, it was a decent match. It was very much about having Jada Stone go over. There was this tope suicida that Stone did where you can kind of see she almost scorpioned herself. A power bomb on the apron gives Dani Luna the advantage, and they go to commercial again. And I'll get to that at some point. I don't understand these commercial breaks. But eventually we do see Jada Stone get the upper hand with a spinning moonsault, and she does get the pin. And that will be it for Dani Luna in TNA. What's crazy is they were talking about how big of a star Dani Luna is throughout this entire match. So I'm looking forward to see where she goes. I hope that she does pop up someplace that will utilize her to her best ability. Usually when a talent asks for the release like that, typically because they're not having the booking or the creative that they would like, and they want something better and they want something a little bit different. Afterwards, Tasha Steelz comes in to deliver a pile driver to Jada Stone, so they are clearly building up this beef between these two. Afterwards, we then see Elijah walking through one of the many cemeteries in the New Orleans area, and I will tell you right now, fun fact, wherever they recorded that, they were not in New Orleans, because the famous New Orleans cemeteries, St. Louis Cemetery 1 and 2, and a few other ones, are technically barred from having video and even camera, just photos inside there while they're in there. So that cemetery that they were in must have been New Orleans adjacent, because I know for a fact, because I've been there, that is illegal. You can't do that. Elijah is walking through, and he eventually meets a young boy, and the young boy says that his father and he were big fans, and that he wishes for Elijah to come with him and pray with him at his father's gravestone. I'm assuming he didn't necessarily say that, but I'm just assuming that's what it is. And we end up finding out that that boy was promised by Frankie Kazarian, and he walked Elijah right into the trap, and we see Frankie Kazarian going after him. Frankie talks about things. He starts talking about quotes from the Bible. I think it was Genesis. I could be wrong. I wasn't paying attention. Once we get done with the sequence in the cemetery, we now go back to the arena where we see Taryn Terrell come out. I'm going to be honest, I don't know Taryn Terrell that well. I know that she's a big name in TNA and she's got some history with them. I genuinely don't know her that well. I'm assuming that she popped up when I left. Talking about how she lost her career before she was even really ready. When the Elegance brand decides they want to come out, Mr. Elegance makes me chuckle, so I genuinely am okay with the Elegance brand coming out. M&H by Elegance, or whatever they call themselves, Heather and whatever the other one is. Genuinely, I enjoy these guys. They're funny. I know that they're kind of a washed gimmick for a lot of people. They don't really like them, but I think they're funny. They get a reaction out of the crowd, and when it comes to professional wrestling, that is what you want. You do have them talking about how usually Taryn Terrell has her friends and her backup. She's got ODB and Mickie James that are around everybody, but then they have a little video that comes up on screen, and you see that Mickie James and ODB have been attacked and taken out backstage, and then you see the Elegance brand come in and go after Taryn Terrell, who she does try to fight back a little bit, but she does not overcome the numbers odds. And at one point in time, I think it's M by Elegance, the shorter one. I want to say Heather, which is the taller of the two. So the short one, M, just annihilates the security guard that comes out to help out. And oh my God, if you guys try to find it, I'll see if I can't put it up here. But she just annihilates this poor security guard. We end up going to a commercial, and we come back and we see Santino Marella yelling at Ariana Grace, and Stax gets involved in the situation. He gets into his face, and Santino gives him a punch. They end up running backstage, running away from everything, and they go into the women's locker room where obviously Santino cannot go in there. And then we see Indy Hartwell come up and say, "Don't worry, I got this." She goes in, makes sure that nobody's in there, and Santino and Indy end up going in there and whooping some ass. It actually is pretty fun. Indy manages to get the Cobra, so I feel like there's a match building between Santino and Stax. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I feel like that's definitely going to happen at some point in time. We finally get another match. After that, it's Frankie Kazarian versus BDE. Personally, as a person who's on YouTube, it's always fun to see BDE. Not necessarily an explicit fan of his, but I like what he's doing. You can see that he is definitely new to the business. There was a few rough moments in that match, a little bit, that you kind of see that he's definitely learning. On the comms for that match, too, was Ryan Nemeth, and the entire time he's talking about how he's been carrying Nick his whole life, and it's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure Nick is the older one. Perfect person. Perfect match for him to be. He's going to learn something. Even though BDE does mess up a few times in this match, we all do. We're human. I think that Kaz is the perfect person that he is working with. And I guarantee once they got backstage, Kaz had some words for him and talked to him about whatever he's doing. I'll love to see it. Ryan comes in after the match, though, to attack BDE while he encourages Kaz to help. When the lights go off and you hear the guitar strum, and here's Elijah coming in to chase off Kaz. And we come back from a commercial, because of course they go to a commercial, and we see Elena Black facing Myla Grace. I don't know what the deal is with Myla Grace and her tag team partner, that Harley Houston, maybe? I can't remember what her name was. She got the pink hair. I got a picture right here. They had their match, and they went really well. One thing I appreciate, though, when it comes to TNA wrestling is that they are really prominent with women's wrestlers. They have a ridiculously stacked roster with women's talent, so they are really able to show off just how good of wrestlers they are. And I want everybody to stop seeing women's matches and thinking that was a good women's match. Start seeing women's matches and saying that's a good wrestling match. Period. Backstage skit we see with Daria Ray and Santino, where Daria Ray is talking about how she just talked to the board. Somehow she's in a totally different outfit, so they didn't really plan that one through. And Indy Hartwell, also a totally different outfit. Santino does really well wearing the same jacket every single week, so most people don't notice that. That's a smart move by Santino. But apparently Santino and Indy Hartwell are indefinitely suspended, so I'm curious to see what they end up doing with that. There are certain segments I don't think they really need to do, but I digress. We have another Ricky Sosa sighting. This time, though, I will admit, this time he actually has an opportunity to show some action because, of course, while he is talking to the crowd and addressing the fact that he has now signed with TNA, we see the ultimate antagonist of TNA, the man yelling at clouds himself, Eric Young, who comes out and basically tells Ricky Sosa that, he's young. And he's a cloud, and he doesn't like him, so he's going to yell at him. We do see Eric Young trying really hard to get into Ricky Sosa's head. He says if you want some, he's going to get some. Sosa does get some really good shots in. EY ends things off with a pile driver. Go to commercial again. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this commercial. How are you going to have matches split up by commercial on a pre-tape show? And this is the reason I'm bringing it up, because we have a segment when we come back from commercial where we see Rosemary, Tessa Blanchard, James Mitchell, Jakara Jackson, I can't remember what her name is now. It's like Mara Shide, there it is. And Alicia Fox, who, again, I'm not totally sure what her name is off the top of my head. And a few of these people. And this whole segment lasted for about a good 10 minutes. And I'm sorry, I understand that they're trying to tell a story. I like Rosemary. I do. I really do. I'm a fan of Allie because Allie is also popping up in these segments as the bunny. I like the fact that they're bringing people in. We end up having an Abyss sighting during this entire segment as well. But please, somebody explain to me why we are doing all of this when we have matches that are getting split up by commercial break. Why is that happening? On a pre-tape show, that should not be happening. But the entire time we have Alicia Fox, who's going by a Victoria Crawford now. I can't remember Tessa Blanchard's other entourage friend's name. Somebody's gonna have to help me with that. But we basically see them all going through this other world place. We have Allie there because she's quote unquote dead and they're coming back from this other place. James Mitchell is talking about how they're in this place, and they have Rosemary giving James Mitchell Abyss, who literally Abyss comes up. Matthew Parks has decided to don the Abyss mask one more time. And then they go to the ring and it's Order 4. And Mustafa Ali is talking about Rebellion, and he then invites Trey Miguel down to talk about how he has some things to go over when it comes to his international title. Miguel comes down walking with an absolute purpose. They go back and forth about how Mustafa has a term called second chance champions, where people go away and come back and they get a second chance and become champions, and how Mustafa actually will not hit that peak because he does not screw up and he does not need a second chance. And honestly, there is a certain extent when it comes to that. I have noticed when it comes to TNA, that is something that they do, especially with Trey Miguel, obviously, with that situation that they had with AEW. They kind of brought him back, and it was just this whole, like, yeah, he's back now, we're going to have him, he's going to be a whole thing. I like what they're doing with Mustafa Ali, but at the end of the day, I want to say that they're definitely going to be working on something when it comes to that whole group. They have a faction of people, Order 4, so it's got the Good Hands, Mustafa Ali, I said her name earlier, Tasha still. They have a good group, and they're really trying something. They end up having this whole thing that goes throughout the entire match. They start fighting. Trey Miguel gets the upper hand at one point. Order 4 comes in and saves Mustafa. Moose comes out to save the time because at this point it's basically 5-on-1, and he literally speared Mustafa Ali out of his shoes. His shoes go flying, and they actually end up showing that. And it said now it's after that match that there will be 2 matches that have culminated from this. It will be Special Agent Zero versus Moose and Miguel versus Ali at Rebellion. And that point, after another commercial break, they come back and we have a rundown of the Rebellion matches, which I have for you right here. Of course, the main event is more than likely going to be Santana versus Eddie Edwards. We're going to see Leon Slater versus Cedric Alexander. The Hardys are going up against the System. The titles are going to be on the line for all of these matches. Ariana Grace is going up against Li Ying Li for the Knockouts Championship. Mustafa Ali and Trey Miguel for the International Championship. Moose and Agent Zero. Kaz and Elijah. AJ Francis and Nick Nemeth. BDE versus Ryan Nemeth. And the Elegance brand versus Mickey James, ODB, and Taryn Terrell. And then we move to our main event, which is the tag team tables match between the Hardys and the Righteous. TNA really likes their silhouette video boards. There's a whole thing with the Righteous where they pose before they come out. The match gets a little awkward. There's defensive and offensive tables driving. I will admit, though, I like how TNA has done their tables tag team matches. They have it all stipulated where instead of it being, you're eliminated, you're not supposed to happen, because how many times do you see somebody get eliminated in tag team tables match and they're still helping in the match? So instead of the way they do it, TNA has it set up where it's just a point. So if you put one member and that member is still there, it's just that other person has to go through the table too. They do end up going through a few good back and forths. The match does get a little bit excessive because it's your usual Hardy nonsense. There is a moment though where Vincent just completely obliterates a ladder because Jeff pulled a ladder out and is about to do something. At the end though, Jeff goes for a swanton. Vincent attempts a swanton and Jeff moves. Jeff goes for another swanton and he moves again. Matt makes a move to get Vincent on a table and Jeff swantons him and gets the win. And then of course Dutch attacks after the win. TNA, I wouldn't say they're cooking, but they're definitely kind of doing one of these. I have been watching them since they started at AMC in the middle of January. The first few episodes did not go that well. I think it was the 3rd or 4th episode that I watched that I was actually really excited to be watching because I sat down for that first episode and went, this is your premiere episode? So I understand that there was a lot of stuff that ended up coming up because of that. There were some visa issues, so there were people that were not on the show that should have been on the show, and this and that, vice versa. But when it comes down to it, you really got to worry about how you're booking your shows. And I get that they have a recording schedule when they're in these different venues, and they record different episodes at different times, and everything does get jarbled up. And when it comes to it, you need to be wise of that. And sometimes they can be wise of it, and sometimes they're a little bit off. And I feel like they're really trying. I know that a few people have some things to say about Carlos Silva and his decision making when it comes to TNA talent being involved in matches against AEW talent, because Nick Nemeth and I believe it was Bear Bronson were removed from matches that involved an AEW person, because I think it was Ricochet and Nemeth, and it was MJF and Bronson or something to that extent, and they ended the opportunity for that to happen because your guess is as good as mine. So, but that is going to be it. That is the Friday Thursday Impact review. Yep. That's going to be it for today's Impact review, your Friday afternoon, Thursday night Impact review. I, again, am Jimmy King with WrestleLaunch. Make sure you check out all of the content that has been posted up here on good old WrestleLaunch, whether it's my reviews, Paul's rants, or the weekly podcast, even some of the videos that Sponge will be putting up here very soon as well. Make sure that you are checking out, and if you don't already, subscribe and like, comment, and let us know what you guys think. Again, I am Jimmy King with WrestleLaunch, and make sure you follow the easiest rules in the entire world. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and above all else, enjoy wrestling. You guys have yourselves a great one.